Will a brand new Butler with a familial connection to the dearly departed Alfred make all the difference in the life of the Dark Knight? Well, we'll find out, won't we, in the pages of Batman issue number 11. Oh, but we're not done yet, because we double back and check out what's going on in the pages of Absolute Wonder Woman issue number 21. Diana is trapped in the underworld. Now she must solve a mystery and make it home before Veronica Cale can deliver her wrath upon her friends. We also have Justice League issue number 20 with the Brainiac Queen running amok on the Watchtower. Will Batman and the other Leaguers be forced to ask Luthor and the supervillain parolees for help? Well, we'll find out, won't we, as we dig into 3 of the biggest, most exciting, most happening DC books that you could be reading right now. So without further ado, let's get to it. So then, starting off this story, we are actually introduced to a brand new faction of villains called the Shadow Board, a secret cabal of what I can only assume is captains of industry as well as heads of the military-industrial complex. One of their members is very clearly Mr. Blake, aka the guy that we have seen on the Wayne board of directors who has desperately been trying to get Bruce to pursue making weapons. Here's the big revelation, though. It seems that it was actually Blake and the Shadow Board who sent the assassin the Ojo to kill Bruce a few issues ago, and not Dr. Zeller like everyone, myself including, had assumed. This Wayne contract is clearly very, very important to the Shadow Board, so much to the point they decide to open the floor to as many outside assassins as possible to try and make sure the job actually gets done for real this time. This also means that poor Blake has no option but to go to the Ojo and say that she has been cut out of this deal due to her previous failure, which she does not take too nicely to. You see, the Ojo sees herself as a true professional, one who would have gotten the job done eventually, but now she feels thoroughly disrespected, so much to the point she opts to cut Blake down and continue the job pro bono. Wow, there's severing a business relationship, and then there's really severing a business relationship. Now, it's after that, in a truly amazing spread, we see the Penguin holding court in the Iceberg Lounge with the other Gotham gang lords who just so happen to have their money tied up with the Minotaur and the Taurus Bank. Cobblepot is not happy with how he and the others have been treated, saying that they went in half-cocked, they saw too much money, too much opportunity, and now, despite their best efforts, it certainly seems like they're working for the Minotaur and Taurus and not the other way around. He's new school, new ideas, new tactics. But the Penguin and his people, they're old school Gotham gangsters, and they're ready to remind the Minotaur exactly what that means, even if that includes going to war with the biggest underworld bank there is. Now, elsewhere in the city, we see Dr. Zeller in her apartment doom-scrolling. It seems that everything in Gotham is coming undone all at once. Commissioner Savage, Mayor Pamela Isley, just to name a few fresh new horrors. Then, of course, we have her relationship with Bruce Wayne and the fact that she knows the deep, dark secret that his son is Damian Wayne the Robin. Amazingly, Bruce had managed to get her off the scent a couple issues ago of his own involvement as Batman, and tonight he returns to her apartment to further try and build up the fiction that he's created. He basically says, geez, you know, me and my son, we have a really awkward relationship. He was brought up in the old world with old money. His mom had a lot of crazy ideas about how things worked and about what her son should be. What was I, a lowly billionaire playboy philanthropist, to do? How could I ever possibly relate to the kid? Well, I couldn't, but thankfully I had an in with Batman. I figured maybe he could take the boy under his wing. Give him the kind of structure and direction that I never possibly could. Again, it's very interesting to hear Batman say these things, because you really gotta wonder how much is like a secret half-truth and how much is just a whole lie. He's also sure to end the conversation by saying that he likes Zeller and he hopes that she will rejoin the rest of the world, and potentially him as well. Now from there we transition on over to Gordon. It seems that today is the funeral of one of the cops that Vandal Savage killed in an attempt to cover up his own evidence-planting corruption from the first arc. Jim doesn't end up shedding much of a tear for a cop who turned a blind eye to so much corruption, which in turn only ends up making enemies of some of his old friends on the force. Though it's in this state of vulnerability, Officer Gordon actually ends up opening up to his new partner about how Vandal has his daughter in prison, which is true, and you can read all about it in the Batgirl book. We're also reminded that Detective Harvey Bullock Bullock is working with that journalist and kid from the first arc who have video evidence of Vandal Savage's corruption, and because of that, they have been targeted by the Commissioner and the cops. Now they want to try and pull a runner from Gotham City, and they think Bullock might very well be the only one who can help them. Now later that night, Batman stakes out a crime scene only to not realize that the Ojo is bearing down on him, and oh man, this panel here is absolutely glorious. I love the interplay of all the different colors and the bright shiny lights. A rematch between these two quickly ensues, and hats off to the art team on this one for all they do with the choreography. We see them crash through multiple windows, take the fight to a dance club floor, and Batman even flings off his cape during the heat of battle to give him extra mobility. It's an uphill battle, but eventually Bruce does manage to get the upper hand on this super assassin. Unfortunately, before he can end up pumping her for any information, Vandal Savage's roided up super cops end up showing up guns blazing. I absolutely love the exchange Batman has with these guys too. He basically says, look, if you shoot at me, I am going to have to let this lady go. If I let this lady go, she is going to kill you all. What is more important to you, I ask you, your loyalty to Commissioner Vandal Savage or your own lives and safety? And well, that answer should be pretty obvious by now, shouldn't it? Batman manages to make a hasty retreat and return to the Batcave, where him and Damian compare notes on everything they've learned so far. At first, Batman had assumed that the Ojo was sent to kill Dr. Zeller. Now we know that it was actually the Yakuza who got the job, on behalf of Hugo Strange, which begs the question, if there is someone paying an assassin to start gunning for Bruce, then who are they and what do they want? A question that will have to be tabled, though, is at that very moment they end up hearing the doorbell ring at the front of the mansion, which should by all right be impossible, as they have a metric shit ton of security to make sure they always know what's going on their property before anyone else. At first they wonder if the Ojo would actually be brazen enough to show up at the front door, only when they actually answer it, they discover that their brand new butler is waiting for them. Yes, everybody, this is Verity Pennyworth, great niece of Alfred Pennyworth, as well as member of the mysterious Society of the Midnight Key. She is here now to make sure that Bruce's continuance of care will be resumed as she takes up the mantle of Major Domo for the Wayne family. So then, picking up with Wonder Woman after her strategic exile from the end of the previous issue, she has returned home to Hell Island, where we see her burying a bunch of her old animal friends. Yes, it would seem that Diana picked the worst, or maybe the best, depending on how you look at it, time for a visit, as her mother Cersei is missing. Obviously, Cersei the Sorceress is an incredible powerhouse, meaning that no one could ever have forced her to go unwillingly unless they were also equally as powerful. Meaning that it looks like before Wonder Woman can return home to try and help her friend, she is going to have to solve this mystery and help her mother before she leaves. Now, back in the real world, we actually get a chance to see how Wonder Woman's friends and allies are coping without her. A group of heavily armed military types attempt to raid the Heron, only for all of them to become violently sick due to the magical wards that protect this place. Steve Trevor is outside enjoying his morning cup of coffee while all of this goes down, saying that if the soldiers have a problem, they should take it up with his lawyer, Julia Capitelis, which is maybe one of the Greekest names I've ever heard. And why, yes, Julia is indeed a pre-existing Wonder Woman character. She was actually Diana's old Harvard professor back in the main universe. Her daughter was also the third incarnation of classic Wonder Woman villain Silver Swan, so I wonder if any of that's gonna end up coming back again. We also get the opportunity to check back on in with Etta and her sister Gia in this issue. Admittedly, we probably know less about these two than we know about just about anyone else in the Wonder Woman cast at the moment. We know that they're very witchy, and it seems that Etta is in the process of trying to build up a coven, something that she was trying to do even before her and her sister ended up running into Wonder Woman. We also learn that Gia is going on a little trip to Gotham, and they make a fun little crack about, oh hey, say hi to Batman for me when you get there, huh? The real meat of this issue, and I mean that very literally, is of course the poor fate of Barbara Ann Minerva. She was taken captive by Veronica Cale, and she's been locked up with the corpse of Priscilla Rich, aka the Cheetah of Cale's Suicide Squad, for the last 3 days, and because of that, things are becoming very desperate. Barbara ends up hearing the creepy disembodied voice of who we later learn is Urtsataga, aka the plant god that made Barbara into the Cheetah back in the mainline universe. And oh man, I love how they write this version of the character in this story. He is so very clearly trying to make a devil's deal with Barbara and Minerva. Join me, be my new champion, be my Cheetah. But Barbara is just way too smart to be be played the same way that all these other cheetahs have been played. Still, though, it's not like she has a lot of options, and because of that, she opts to try and taste a little of Priscilla's blood. A, because she hasn't had anything to eat in 3 days, and B, because doing so actually allows her the opportunity to see Priscilla's memories. Apparently, once upon a time, she was your regular old high society party girl. However, over time, something in her changed. She began to crave raw meat, and her father, a wealthy and well-connected man himself, decided the only way to cure his daughter would be if he leaned on Veronica Cale to do just that. Cale, of course, being something of an expert in the application of otherworldly and magical weapons, took Priscilla under her wing, at first as a friend, before eventually just locking her in a cage, figuring that the best way to try and help Priscilla was to make her fully embrace her animalistic cheetah nature. Barbara Ann and Priscilla also form what I can only call a sort of Avatar state situation, wherein she can talk to cheetahs of the past. Priscilla says, yeah, I kind of bungled this one, I was really out of my depth. But hey, I mean, you're a genius, right? You're a doctor. If you do eat of my body and do become the new cheetah, maybe you can actually use these powers to get one over, not just on Veronica Cale, but on this whole dark god thing, making pacts with desperate women. And hey, speaking of desperate women, after that, we switch back on over to Wonder Woman. In her internal monologue, she mentions that her mother Circe had all sorts of enemies, basically a who's who of the worst of the Greek pantheon. Any one of them could have kidnapped her, but Diana thinks that this might very well have been the work of the mighty Manticore, and man, I love the way the Manticore looks in this book. They really accentuate the whole face of a man thing. Now, if you know anything about Manticores, they're big, strong, and incredibly venomous. Their poison doesn't work on themselves, so that's certainly out, but Diana has a much better idea to make this guy talk. She ends up going full rodeo, grabbing this thing with her lasso in an attempt to make him tell the truth. Oh, not in a it's a magical lasso that makes you tell the truth kind of way, but in a it's a horrible weapon with sick barbs on it that will force you to be honest just because of the sheer unbridled pain. Eventually, the Manticore spits it out that no, he was not responsible for Circe's kidnapping, but damn it, if he wasn't mad at her before, he sure is now. Okay, that's one suspect marked off the Ray Harryhausen monstrosity list. What about the Skyla? She had it out for Circe. Meaning that if Diana wants to confront her, she's going to have to head out to sea, climbing a cliffside before eventually starting a fire. It's here where things get really interesting. You see, in her downtime, Diana starts mulling it over in her head. Why, of all the people in all the Greek world to raise young Wonder Woman, why did they choose Circe the Sorceress, someone who was so taken to revenge, who was so rough around the edges? Surely it was because they wanted Wonder Woman to be an unfeeling weapon, right? Only feel she did. Circe and Diana ended up forming quite the powerful mother-daughter bond, a bond that could very easily be mistaken for weakness by the likes of the Hecate, who appears to Wonder Woman to reveal, yeah, this was me, I actually kidnapped Circe. I think she's actually starting to drag you down and distract you from your great mission. And it's on that surprising and unexpected note right there the comic comes to a close. And lastly, this week we come to Justice League. Picking up from where the last issue left off, the Brainiac Queen had managed to return due to interfacing with Airwave. Now it's threatening to take over the entire Watchtower and wreak a horrible revenge on all the heroes who wronged her, as well as her mother Amanda Waller, who she still desperately wants to try and be reunited with. It's all hands on deck as Batman leads a full-out assault against the Brainiac Queen. He also asks Red Tornado to try and call up any Alpha Leaguers in the area to try and assist. Remember, this thing gave Superman a run for his money and also ended up spelling the end of the entire League during that Absolute Power event. So yeah, the Brainiac Queen is nothing to be messed with. At first, the Question Renee Montoya attempts to shoot her into the Phantom Zone, but that doesn't work. This thing is learning at lightning-fast speeds, as well as interfacing with all the hyper-advanced technology aboard the Watchtower, making itself even more dangerous as the fight drags on. Ryan Choi, the Atom, thinks he's being really smart by shrinking down to microscopic size and trying to get inside the Brainiac Queen's head to shut it down from the inside, only he ends up getting royally messed up for his trouble and walking away with the horrible realization that this thing might not be able to be stopped. Hell, as the comic is quick to remind us, they technically didn't even really beat the Brainiac Queen last last time, they just kind of punted her away to the other side of the universe in hopes that the problem would just work itself out. Now from there we transition on over to the Justice League away team, who I am still lovingly calling the Justice Gang. They were supposed to transport the League's power vault to Oa, only for them to end up crash landing on a planet and losing the vault. Things have somehow managed to get worse from there, as it seems that all of the prehistoric creatures on this planet absorbed League abilities from the leaking box, turning them into absolute powerhouses, meaning that the poor heroes are now literally stuck between a rock and a hard place. Thankfully, they're not totally alone though, as Guy and the others end up making contact with the captain of that other ship from the previous issue. Apparently, these guys were in the middle of a good old-fashioned war when they crashed into the League ship, meaning they are all now officially in this horrible problem together. Now, back at the Watchtower, more Leaguers throw themselves at the Brainiac Queen problem, including Captain Atom, who, you'll never believe this, has to retreat after his suit ends up getting compromised. God, is there a Justice League or maybe a comic character in general who gets so consistently jobbed out the way that Captain Atom does? And I don't even mean that he gets jobbed out a lot, I mean that he consistently gets jobbed out the same way. Oh no, my suit is ripped, I'm leaking radiation, I guess I'll have to run away from the fight now or explode. Seriously, man, invest in a better suit. It would make a huge difference, I assure you. Just when it seems like all is lost, though, everyone ends up hearing the voice of Airwave attempting to reason with the Brainiac Queen, basically saying, hey, don't you remember from the end of Absolute Power that Waller was screwing with you the whole time and wasn't telling you the whole truth? If she could be wrong about all that, maybe you're wrong about all the superheroes, maybe you don't want to try and kill us, and for a second there, the Brainiac Queen actually does start to listen to the logic in this argument. Unfortunately, though, all Airwave really ends up doing is creating an opening for Lex Luthor to positively execute the Brainiac Queen while she was computing. Yeah, Batman and the others didn't want the supervillain parolees to assist with this problem, mainly because Batman and the others didn't want the supervillains on the Watchtower, period, but leave it to Lex Luthor to just kind of welcome himself in with open arms. In fact, he might actually have made the problem worse. With Brainiac Queen dead, there's no solid way to actually ever get Airwave back. Lex argues that what he did for the greater good, that the Brainiac Queen was unpredictable, unstoppable, and that as heroes they should be willing to make the hard choices. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and Lex already plans to dispose of the Brainiac's body by having Warp open up a portal to the center of the sun. Ryan Choi pipes up over the PA system, desperately trying to get his win back, saying that if they can get the Brainiac Queen's body to his lab, he thinks he can fix everything for everyone, meaning we get treated to a truly awesome scene wherein Wonder Woman, Donna Troy, and John Kent alongside Captain Marvel desperately try and get the body before it can be pulled into a portal, never to be seen again. However, the Brainiac Queen comes back online long enough to give Warp a frontal lobotomy and steal the information to hijack the portal for herself, meaning as the comic comes to a close, these superheroes and the supervillains of the League are positively at each other's throat once again, and worst of all, no one actually knows where the Brainiac Queen could have gone or what evil plan she probably has in store next now. And there you have it, everybody. 3 DC books for this week, 1 new one and 2 long-awaited catch-ups. Starting with Batman issue number 11. Once again, I'm enjoying what Matt Fraction and company are throwing down here. This story really seems to get bigger every time I check back in with it. We got the Minotaur and the Taurus Bank. We have this brand new Shadow Board. We have all of these different assassins. We have Dr. Zeller, who we're still not 100% sure. Can we trust her? Can we not trust her? Really love the action in this one. Really solid fight. With the Ojo. We'll be interested to see if Fraction brings in some classic assassins from Batman lore for the next arc, or if we're going to see some brand new ones that we've never seen before. Love the use of the cape in the fight itself. Again, Fraction really seems to be pushing himself to try and do things that we have not particularly seen with Batman. Of course, none of that matters, though, because the thing everyone is going to be talking about by the time this issue is said and done is, of course, we have a new Butler now. A new Butler who is also a Pennyworth, a distant relation to Alfred themselves. That is interesting, but what I think is more interesting is the Key Society that she mentions there, that apparently she is part of some secret group of, I can only assume, butlers. Again, if you ever watch that Ray Fiennes movie with the hotel, the one that I love so much, I feel that it's very, very similar to that all of these butlers all hang out together. They all got a big group chat going on. What new things could she bring to the book? Not sure. We'll be interested to see see, will Batman even be receptive to this person? Because, Batman, or, Alfred was so much more than just a butler to Batman. He was a friend, he was a father figure, he was a confidant. Can this woman do the same? Will she be rejected? Will she be embraced? Will she end up being some sort of villain? With Batman, you can never quite tell. Overall, I think I'd feel comfortable giving this one a 7.5 out of 10. Pretty good, maybe not as strong as the issue that preceded it. I like that we are developing all the different storylines that are out there beyond just Batman himself. Will be fun to see how this all comes together in trade. Then, of course, I got the opportunity to catch up with Absolute Wonder Woman. Again, this series moves from strength to strength. I know I say that a lot. I know I sound like a broken record when I'm talking about Absolute books, but it's true. Consistency is king, and this is one of the most consistent books in one of the most consistent lines. It is fun to see Wonder Woman, forced back into the underworld, forced to solve a mystery, to flex her own kind of detective muscles, to, again, reincorporate all that great ancient Greek, monster manual stuff there with the Manticore. Love how the Manticore looks in this one. Some more bigger revelations too of, why the gods even chose Cersei to be Wonder Woman's mother. They could have chose anyone, but they chose her, and now all those chickens are coming home to roost. This is also a great showcase piece for Wonder Woman's supporting cast of characters. Steve Trevor gets a really awesome moment in this. Gia and Etta get a chance to really expand themselves. As I mentioned, we actually probably know the least about them as we do of anyone else in the story, so it's cool to see that they have their own, witchy stuff going on independent of Wonder Woman. But the character who I think really ends up running away with this issue is Dr. Barbara Ann Minerva. I love the slow build that they have been giving us to her eventually becoming the Cheetah, and even now, her reasoning is like, well, I'm a smart woman, so maybe I can try and outthink and, outplay and outfox this ancient evil plant god. Maybe I can do better than the person who came before, and, it's dark, and it's messed up, and it's gory, and it's, just really well done and really well constructed, promising that when we do finally get the absolute Cheetah, she's going to be unlike any version of the Cheetah we has ever seen before, and I'm most certainly on board with that. I would give this one a very well-deserved 8 out of 10. Great stuff. And then, of course, after that, we have Justice League issue number 20. Justice League Unlimited. Sorry, you gotta honor the Unlimited, because this really is an unlimited book. This is a book that can include anyone, it can go anywhere, and this is a perfect issue to highlight just that point. I love that we're getting a little side adventure with what is basically the Justice Gang from the movies. I love how organically Mark Waid has managed to work that in and make them kind of a sub-team of the main Justice League and let them go out to space to have their own crazy, almost Star Trekian kind of adventure battling a planet of superpowered primordial creatures. Great stuff. That's what comics is made of. And then on the other end of it, we actually have him doing some really great work with the Brainiac Queen, a villain who Joshua Williamson built up super big in his Superman run, who was really important for absolute power, but then kind of got forgotten, kind of got, kicked by the wayside. I'm glad she's back now. I'm glad she's a serious threat. I love when it comes to taking her down, it's all hands on deck, and I also really love that Airwave continues to be super important and that they continue to build his character and show that he is a very important leaguer and that he does have, skills and abilities outside just what he's able to do by, manipulating airwaves. That he almost won the day here. He was almost able to talk the Brainiac Queen down, and he might very well have done it if Luthor didn't come in all big dick villain swaying there trying to get his own way. Once again proving that, maybe this whole supervillain parole idea isn't going to work out. Not when, villains like Luthor cannot help themselves but not be team players and not just end up calling their own audibles. But it's not just that he's being a mustache-twirling villain about the whole thing. I mean, there is logic to what he's saying. Cruel, callous logic, but there's logic to how he dealt with the Brainiac Queen problem, and will be interesting to see how we continue to grow this idea moving on through the rest of the arc. Overall, I would also give that one a very strong 8 out of 10, and glad I got the opportunity to come back and cover that one. But, yeah, there you go, everyone. That'll just about do it for me for another week. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, I hope you're doing well out there. I hope you read some good comics this week. I hope you're enjoying Canada Day if you are a Canuck like me, and I hope you will join me again on Sunday when we get to do this all over again, but with the Marvel book. So until then, everyone, I've been Cave Joel. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I will be back again next time.